In this video, I'm going to take a look at default values for positional arguments. And I'm going to start off by looking at this computer program, which we saw in the last video. If you were unsure of this program, it might be a good idea to look at the last video in the playlist. But essentially, we have this line of code invoking this function. And you can see we're going to be passing these arguments to these parameters in the following way. We're going to see that Fred will be passed to name, so name will be storing Fred, or we'll have a reference to the object Fred if we want to be precise when we're talking about Python. And this here will be passed to age, so 32 is passed to the age. And of course, what will then happen is this line will print out this F string as can be seen from the runtime that's appearing now. This part of the string appears here. Here you can see within the braces, or if you prefer curly brackets, we have this parameter, which is shown here, and that has the value of Fred, and Fred is placed here. This part of the string is placed here. Here we can see the curly brackets or braces contain the parameter age, which is this parameter here. So this 32 is placed here at the output of the program. This part of the string is placed here. On the next slide, I'm going to take a close look at this header of the function, and I'm going to look at the two parameters here, and I'm going to set them to a default value. So let's move on to the next slide. Floating into view, we can see the header of the function that we've been using in this video. I'm now going to alter this as shown by the next header appearing. And if you look here, I am assigning to name John Doe. Now this is the default value for name. So if I don't pass anything to name, it'll take up this value of John Doe. If you look here, I've got age is assigned 0. So if I don't pass anything to age, when I call the function, it will take up this value of 0. So let's move on and look at the program with the changes. And you can see here, I have included the default values in the header of the function. Look to this, which is calling the function, and look at the brackets, and you can see there's nothing contained within the brackets. Because although this is the call to this function, we're not passing anything from here to here, which means that the name and the age will take up, respectively, John Doe and 0. Consequently, when this is executed, what we're going to see at the output is the following. So you can see in this position, the default John Doe appears here. And in this position, the default for age, which is 0, appears here. Before I move on to the next slide to show you an amendment to this program, I'd like to draw your attention to this program statement where we're invoking the function here. And in particular, I'd like you to take note of the brackets, and you can see there's nothing in them. I'm not passing anything to this function. Moving on to the next slide, you can see the call now, and within the brackets, you will note that there is Fred Smith and 10. So the call will result in Fred Smith being passed to the parameter name, and the John Doe, which was the default value, will no longer be associated with the parameter name. The 10 will be passed to the parameter age, and the 0 that was associated with age will no longer be associated with it. This line of code will then execute, and the output from the program that will appear on the visual display unit is shown here. And this will ensure that the content of the name parameter, which is Fred Smith, appears here. This will ensure that the content of the age parameter, which is 10, appears here. So we can see here we have parameters that have been given default values, but these default values can be overwritten by these positional arguments. Now you may be wondering, why do we define functions with default values? A typical example could be that you design a function to read files, and 99% of the time the files they read are comma separated files. So you would set the function up so that one of its parameters would hold information that told the function that it is going to be reading comma separated files. However, 1% of the time it might want to read another type of file. So you would allow that default value to be overwritten so you could inform the function that it's reading a different type of file.